So I'll do the intro again. Hello, everyone. I didn't start recording on the YouTube channel stream. So, yeah, here I am doing a live mix of a song called Myth Making by my bandmate Chris Barnes. He played everything on this. If you're watching this on catch up, then please go to YouTube and watch it. It's much better quality. And also, excuse me, if you listen to the song at the beginning and you like it, and you only want to listen to the final result, then skip to the end of the video and you'll be able to listen to the final result. So don't just listen to the beginning and go, oh, that sounds good, and ignore it, because that's when it's not been worked on, and it's probably the worst place to listen to it, even though it sounds pretty good as it is now. All right, I'm getting people online. Oh, we've got 17 people watching. Hello, 17 people. Say hello in the comments. There's about a 15-20 second delay on some of this, so if you type me something, I might not be able to respond immediately, and if I'm listening or doing something, I won't see it come up. But hello, Jason. Hello, Chris. Chris has joined us on the stream. It's his song. He'll be able to answer any questions that you might have about what instruments it was played on. Was it played on my SG? That's what I want to ask you, Chris. The electric bits, were they done on my SG? Because I know a lot of your album was done on my SG. Oh, we got 32 people, so it's not too late. Hello, Tom. Hello, Christine. I think we'll start as we... hello, Jenna. We'll start as we've started the other videos. I'm just going to play the song as it is at the moment. So I'm going to switch to my Cubase screen. I've also updated Cubase. I'm using a later version of Cubase now. And, yeah, it was played on my SG. Oh, that's cool. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, I've got a later version of Cubase. And I've also gone onto the Waves website and bought all their latest... plugins. I bought the Mercury bundle and also the Studio Classics set. I thought I'd get up to date with the latest plugins, so that's cool. And what with the IK multimedia stuff I got from Dave Kersner, I've actually got quite a nice set of really modern, up-to-date 64-bit plugins. So I'm going to play with some of those as well. This was mixed, sort of provisionally mixed before I had all that. Anyway, enough of me waffling. I'm going to mute my mic and play the track as it is at the moment. This is Myth Making by Chris Barnes. Here we go.
I can't escape your frown.
Okay, well, that's the song. Few hellos, people have turned up. Jimmy Hill, hi mate, it's been a long time. It certainly has. How you doing, Jimmy? Nice to hear from you. I'm live mixing people's music on Facebook at the moment while we're in lockdown, just in case you're wondering what I'm doing. Anne Blair, hello Anne, how you doing? Lelia, is that right? Is that the right pronunciation? Where are you? Dave Kersner says, where are you? I'm at home. In my studio doing some mixing for Chris Barnes. Christine, hello Christine. Have you superimposed yourself? This is Jimmy. Have you superimposed yourself in the front of a really messy room? No, that's my room. Okay, I'm going to leave the comments. Hello Tim. And yeah, I'm going to leave the comments for now. We're going to talk about the song, otherwise we get distracted. Okay, so what do you think of the provisional mix so far? Let me know. I'm going to start turning off the plugins and everything. I'm going to move this microphone as well. I've also got a nice little iPad controller here for Cubase, which is quite nice. It saves me having to find the mouse point and find the transport bar and all that, so I can just return and hit play and it will do it entirely from my iPad, which is incredibly nice. So let's have a look at this song. I'm going to start by just turning everything off. I'm going to turn a load of the plugins off for the moment. Just get rid of some stuff off here and just play you the raw signals without anything on it, because we're going to take some stuff off and try some different things. Just turn all of these off. Turn the snare plugins off. The side stick. The hi-hat. Did I turn everything off there? No, I didn't. The toms, take the EQ off there. The overheads and the room mics. And the second room mic is linked, so that should have done that. Got the bass here. I'm going to get rid of everything off there. I'm going to mute that second bass channel. The guitars left and right, I'm going to turn them off. Just get rid of everything so you can hear it as it was provided to me. Oh, no. Cheers, man. I'm glad you like it. If you need anything mixed, send it over. I'm doing loads of mixing on live stream. Good way to promote your song. You can share the stream and people can see the whole thing being mixed live and then catch up on YouTube afterwards if they want to. So, yeah, feel free to join in on this whole experiment. Let me have a look. 12-string acoustic. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Hammond. Get rid of the plugins on that. I should have had here's one we prepared earlier, but that would be far too easy to do. So just I don't know why I'm not just clicking at the top there and just turning everything off like that. What an idiot, eh? What an idiot. I'm going to leave them as they are for now. Right, so this was how I was provided the songs. Here we go. Turn them up so you hear them.
Within you there's a childhood play.
So this is sort of unmixed. There's some levels, but I've not got any EQing or anything else going on yet.
A fragile terror you maintain draws people in to feel the same. I was one of those, knowing you must face your fears. I know by what you say, lie to yourself but not to me. Just
Hello, Nell.
Desperate to change, you're unwilling to even try. I don't buy what you say, lie to yourself but not to me. Just like the myth they gave, there's someone else you'd rather be. Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eye? The reaction has gone. Leave behind all your lies.
I still had something on over the drums, but it's just a group compressor.
Behind your lies. Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eye? The reaction is gone. Leave behind all your lies. Leave behind your lies.
So that's with not a huge amount of plugins on. I did realise that I did have some plugins. I had an EQ and this Maserati group compressor over the drums there as a whole group. But other than that, I didn't really have anything on it. So I'm going to go through all of this bit by bit. What I've already done is I did a tempo map. I got the bass drum channel, which is here, and I did a tempo map. So it actually maps to a click track. So if I, because it wasn't played with a click. So if I play it with the click on, and just solo the drums. Which is actually really helpful, having a click to it, even if it's wasn't originally played to a click. Because that means I can program things and move things and snap them to bars. Another thing I did is I triggered the bass drum, because the original bass drum signal, the microphone wasn't great and it was picking up a lot of background noise. You can hear how flappy it is. If you're listening on a phone, you probably won't hear that, but there's a lot of something horrible going on at the bottom there, which I didn't like at all. So I double clicked on it and went to this screen here and went to hit points and changed the threshold, which gives us the hit points for the bass drum. And then I clicked here to create MIDI notes, and it created me a MIDI track here, which I could then put the drum set over, the Modo drum, and I basically called up a bass drum from there that I liked the sound of, and it sounded like this. So that's the place I'm going to start, is with that bass drum, because it's a nice solid bass drum. It hasn't got any background noise. It sounds pretty real. It's not like some sort of electric sample. It's not got too much click. It's got some nice boom. But I feel that I want it to just punch a little bit more. There's a kind of a bit on the bottom end where it's going boo, boo. And I think for a song that's this, how can I put it? It's a bit of a wall of noise song in places. Not all the way through, but in places it's a bit of a wall of noise song. So I want to try and create space where I can, which can be quite challenging when sort of everything's up to 11. I'm going to start, though, with an insert, one of my new plugins, one of my new Waves plugins, which is called the X-Trans. I'm going to start with the, just not the multiband one, just the straight one here. And this plugin promises, I've never used it before this session, so let's hear how it sounds. It's meant to basically get the transients, which are the kind of the hard-hitting frequencies, the ones here that sort of peak very quickly, and sort of lower some of this business here, some of this tail off. I don't fully know exactly how it does it or anything like that. I was watching a video on it after I bought these plugins. I thought I better find out what they do, and I was watching a video on it, and people were putting mega kick on, for example, and it was just making it much more slappy. So let's see. Oh, I need to solo that. Why is that not? No? Don't want to play? Oh, what's going on here? Okay, so we've lost our drums. Oh, I've muted them somehow. I muted the MIDI track. I must have pressed a key and done that at some point. I can always watch back the stream and see at what point I did that. Right, here we go again. So that's with the Trans X on. Probably need to turn down the level going into it. Let's go to the snare. Now the snare, I really didn't like the sound of at all. It's just really pingy. So on this, I had an EQ on it, which looked something like that, and this was my starting point. So you listen to that with it on. That's it off. So it's just taking out certain frequencies. Number 4 here, I've dipped quite a lot. You hear that? That ring, that's horrible. So we just dip that down. I mean, there's some other rings on there. And then I've got a second EQ. I've got another one doing even more. Just really giving it some fatness. Rolling the low, the high pass, should I say, sorry. A little bit on that. And then I've got my old favourite here, the SSL channel, where I loaded their kind of standard snare preset and then played with it a little bit. And this just warms it all up. Bit of a gate on it. So to give you an idea of the difference, what it was, this is what it was. Nice one, Noel. Pass it over, mate. So that's what the snare was. Now. And then I did have, I don't know why I did this, I did have a multi-band compressor on it as well. Again, just to bring out more of that bottom end. Might be a little bit too much, but let's see in the mix of things. So with the bass drum, with the sampled bass drum, they sound like this. Yeah, that multi-band brings out even more bottom end. So the next place I'm going to look at here is the room mics. There's 2 room mics, left and right. So this is what they sound like raw. Let's move on a bit. So I put some EQ on them, took out some bits and pieces. And then I used this other one, which is one of the T-Rex plugins, which is called the British channel. And this one here is adding some low on it, so I'm getting the sound of the whole kit through the room mics. I've taken out some low mid around 300 hertz, taken out a bit of high mid around 3K, and boosted some highs probably around 10K, something like that, just to give it a bit of air. I've got a tiny bit of compression going on there. I might have to turn the latency up. So there's my room mics, and the overhead, I've got a central overhead here. Which has another one of these T-Rex British channels on it. With a little bit more compression, I want it to sound trashy. And I've got an EQ on it as well. I'm going to bring up the high pass a little bit. And with the bass drum and the snare, if I go back to the beginning. So you can see you've got quite a bit of toms coming through that, even though there's no tom mics in at all. Now that snare still sounds to me pretty pingy and dead, but I'm going to add the reverb to it. So I've got a reverb channel here. Here it is, sorry. With a plate reverb on it. And I'm sending that snare there to that. Just trying to give it some depth. Right, let's find where the toms are. So that's a nice strong tom section. Let's go to there and I'll set that on the right locator as well, and we'll loop that round. I just want to listen to those toms. Oh, I might have actually had the toms in by mistake earlier. Oh no, it's just... When I soloed the reverb, it turned the tom channels on. So there's a lot of ringy stuff going on there, but I didn't want to compress them on their own. If I have the first tom up only, you can hear when I put that's without the EQ. Put it on. So there's a lot of this coming out here around 125 hertz, which is really just ringing. I've got quite a wide Q on it. I'm just because you're getting a lot of that depth coming through the room mics. So the close mics, I just want to get the attack. I want to get the some of this stuff, which although I've brought down, is still very present. You can really hear the sticks hitting the skin. And the second tom. Similar kind of thing, just different frequencies because obviously it's tuned differently. Okay, so I'm just going to look at only the close drums going to turn these crunch drums down, even though there's no crunching going on them. So this group here is just the replaced bass drum, the snare drum, the side stick, which we haven't got to yet, and the two toms. So all the close mics. Excuse me while I have some water. And I can put some stuff over these just to, I've got them sending to the crunch drums, but I'm not doing anything with that at the moment. So I've just got an SSL bus compressor over these. As you see, it's not really doing a lot. But it gives a sound to it, even when it doesn't look like it's doing very much. It's actually modelled the EQ of the channel. So if you turn it on and off, I mean, some of that's going to be coming from the makeup gain. So if I put the makeup gain on 0, so we're giving it a fair test. I don't know how well that's translating to you over the internet, but it's just giving it a little bit more warmth, even though nothing's happening. But I don't want nothing to happen. I want a little bit of group compression on all those close drums. So I'm going to turn the ratio down to 2. I've got quite a high attack time because I want the punch of the drums to come through. A little bit of makeup gain to compensate for what I'm reducing. So now I'm going to turn that down completely. I'm just going to turn those drums off. And then I've got the crunch drums here. And if I send the close drums to the crunch drums, let's see what I've got going on here. I've just got a high pass, so I'm taking off the real sub stuff. And then I'm crunching it with this. Listen to that. Oh yeah, that's filthy. So if I turn off the crunch drums for now, and I'll just go to the room mics for a bit. I've got a de-esser on them. Well, I can put a de-esser on them just to take out some of the harshest bits of the top end. So when the cymbals get hit, it's not overpowering everything. I don't speak French that well. Hang on, let me try and translate that. Jean-Luc, does Rogue Studio still exist? The recording studio sort of does in Wembley. It's not anything to do with me anymore up there. Well, sort of not anything to do with me. That's a discussion for another time. But yeah, Rogue Studios, the recording studio still exists, but not my old Rogue Studios in Bermondsey. That no longer exists, no. Anyway, so I've got the room and the overheads. They're going through a de-esser, just taking off the harshness of them. And I've got them sending as well to the crunch drum. So if I put that on pre-fader and turn the room and overheads now and just listen to the crunch drums now, that just sounds filthy. Listen to that from the top. Oh, that's so fat. Now, obviously, we don't want to have too much of that in because it's going to ruin the drum sound. But if I put the clean close drums in, clean close drums, that's a tongue twister, and the room mics. So I'll get to a different bit. And then I'm going to put those crunch drums just a little bit underneath them. Just filling out the sound a bit. And all of those go to this group called Final Drums. where I've got another one of these plugins, same as I used to crunch the drums, but I'm not running it anywhere near as crunchy. I'm just using it to give a subtle amount of sort of warmth and compression to the whole group. And with the reverb in, probably bring the bass drum down a bit. Jean-Luc, you came to Rogue Studios. What band were you in? Remind me. Did I do the recording session? I'm sorry, it was many, many years ago, so I don't remember every last little bit about it, but I'd love to know. Jog my memory. Right, so here's the left locator again. Oh, I want to go back to the beginning. Turn off. Of course, I moved the left locator, didn't I? I want to get that just before the song. So here we go. So it's kind of a messy drum sound, but I think that's in keeping with the style of the music. I don't think Chris would be too upset with me saying that. Sort of Supergrass-esque. It's still got a lot of punch on it. Right, so this is something I want to sort out. This side stick here that was on the snare track. It just sounds bloody awful. I mean, there's literally nothing that can be done with that. Ah, Rob, nice one, mate. Loving being in the studio with me. Yeah, there's I hate to say it, but there's just nothing that can be done with that. That just sounds awful. So I'm going to replace that with a MIDI trigger. So first thing I'm going to do is add a new instrument. I'm going to add, what instrument shall I add? The drum one here, the Modo drum. I'm going to run another instance of it. Here we go, so studio kit. I have no idea what note I'm going to be using for this. So if I go to mapping, let's have a look and see. Do they have a side stick in this? This could be interesting. I want a stick in this. Dave, if you're watching, tell me. Oh, I remember you, Jean-Luc. Yes, of course. Friend of Nick Marnie. You were over from France and you came along to Cybig's birthday party in his back garden when we played there. Did a gig in his back garden. I do remember you, Jean-Luc. Nice to see you, mate. Yeah, I can't instantly find a side stick in this, so I'm just going to go through a few kits and see whether they have any. Am I missing it? Okay, well that could be a big kick in the teeth for what I wanted to do. I don't know what other instruments I might have to put in this channel that would do it. Okay, I'm going to abandon that. Otherwise, we're just going to get bogged down in trying to do something I can't do. I'm going to do it a different way. and on another video I'm going to find the correct tool and use it. So what I'm going to do with this instead is I'm going to find the one that I like the sound of, and I'm just going to place it in all the positions so we're getting one consistent click. Don't like that one. That one was horrible. Life mixing, you just sit there and think, oh, what can I do with that? But you get there in the end, solve the problems. Right, that's one sounds like it's actually hitting wood, which is what I want. So I'm going to open up my lanes here and copy a sample of it down and tighten all that up. Chris is saying sorry on the live stream. Yeah, well, you got to play it more consistently, mate. I'm only teasing you. Here we go. I'm just going to position these up by eye, because I can. I'm just going to roughly position them all for now. Holding down Alt to copy while I drag them. Put them in all the places. Chris Barnes, I'm a guitarist. Well, we'll see about that in a minute. Anyway, oh dear, sorry Chris. I did say to Chris that I wouldn't embarrass him and I wouldn't do any banter. Well, not too much banter. Oh, is my webcam gone? Oh no, 1 second. Okay, the camera's gone. I'm going to replace it with my iPad, which I didn't want to do. I was using my my spare iPhone as a camera, and it went. So good. Yeah, he didn't want me. He didn't want me taking the piss out of him too much on the live stream. So I won't mention the fact that one night out during a drunken evening, he was very drunk in a steak restaurant, wolfing it all down, loving the meat, telling me about how he secretly voted for Brexit and voted Tory. So other than that, I'm not saying a word. Right, where was I? Let's line up all these clicks here. I can't believe I've still got people watching after the iPad, iPhone camera thing going wrong. But never mind. Yeah, let me get back in my flow. Here we go. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Next event. Position that there like that. And that one there. I need to learn some new keyboard shortcuts for this new Cubase. Make this whole thing faster. I need my zoom in and out shortcuts. I'll get there. And that looks pretty lined up as well. So even by eye, I think it's the quantizing. So now what I've got there, if I mute all of this, I've got just the one that I liked. So now if I do any EQing to that, we know that it's going to be the same for all of them. So I'm just going to set some locators here and just loop around that click. Right, I'm pulling out. I had a second EQ on. And then I had a reverb on this, separate reverb. Let me just lengthen this loop so I can hear it. Don't like that reverb. I'm going to go to my old standard R verb and get up the plate. I just want a standard drum plate. Turn up the pre-delay. Turn up the time a touch. More pre-delay. More treble. Less bass. Oh, I love the delay. I just got a text from Chris saying your camera isn't working. I wonder how. Yeah, I noticed in the end, Chris. Thanks. So that there is much more consistent because it's the same. Then I put the SSL channel on it. Oh, you get all of that. Oh, I did actually have another R-verb on that I'd used before. That's pretty much the same thing. I actually prefer what I did just now, so I'm going to get rid of that one and go back to this one. And let's listen in keeping with the rest of the drums. Hi Laurie. Hi Don. Cool. So I'm going to sit with that drum sound for a bit. I'm sort of all right with that for the moment. I hope you like it, Chris. It'll probably take about 30 seconds for you to reply to me. By that time, I'll be onto the bass, which is exactly what I'm doing now. So I've got two bass channels here, both of which are absolutely identical. I've just copied the channel. As you can see, it's just called copy of bass. So this one I'm going to call bass sub. And I'm just going to have the lowest possible frequencies. Now, I'm using the HEQ just because I have it, and I thought I'd give it a go. It's very nice. Just bought it recently. Comes with the Waves Mercury pack. Hello, Alan. So, I've really just brought the top end down to 91 hertz and the bottom end up to 56 hertz, and just getting this peak there like that. I mean, I could make it even more subby, and then I could boost it like that if I wanted to, just to have an output level that's decent. And then I want a bit of subtle compression over that. Again, my favourite, the SSL compressor. I've got a 10 millisecond attack on it because I want that initial bass note to punch through. I don't want the compressor kicking in too quickly. I've got an auto release, 4:1 ratio. Oh, that's a bit harsh. I only really want 3 dB of gain reduction at any point. So that's just the sub. And then this one here, which is a copy, I've got another HEQ on it, which is just rolling up the, rolling off the bottom end. So it's just a high pass. And then I've got the amplitude plug-in with a guitar amp over it. And then at different points in the song, I'd actually automated this overdrive to come on and off. So it won't turn on now because it's got automation on it. So you can see it comes on at these points here. So that's just adding a bit of sort of amp realism and a bit of distortion at certain places. And then you put that with the sub. So we listen to that with the drums. So that's sounding pretty nice to me. Quite fat. I mean, the levels of this could all change. Just one thing to point out for those that haven't seen this before, as well as routing all the drums through close drums, rooms, crunch drums, and then to final drums, I also send everything else to a group called Music, which I'm scrolling around for. It's there. So at any point, if I'm listening to the song and I just want to pull out all the music and just listen to the drums, just do that, and I can mix the music back in underneath. Sometimes you start to push things up louder than everything else, and yeah, it all just gets messy. And sometimes it's nice to just pull the music out and then just put it back in, so you still hear the drums. To me, the drums are the driving force of the music, and if they get obliterated, you've just ruined your mix. So the next thing I'm going to look at is these guitars. So I've got a stereo pair of guitars, left and right. And there's nothing on these other than this stereo imager plugin, which is actually making them mono again, because the guitars were panned left and right, and these are stereo files. So at the moment, they're only coming through the left or the right, depending on which channel it is. So I've got this plugin here, which is just bringing the width down to nothing, which just puts them back in the middle. And then I can repan them how I want them. So at the moment, the signals are coming in the middle. Now I want to give them a bit of width, not dead left and right, just a little bit. So maybe left 60, right 60. Just a touch, 60% each way. Some water. So this guitar's basically got two bits to it. There's this kind of bit where he's picking, and it sounds quite dreamy and pleasant. Still crunch, but it's not crazy. And then when he gets to the chorus, or the bridge, should I say, it's much more of a kind of a wall of noise sort of sound. So whatever I do to it, it's either got to work on both those sounds, or I've got to separate them onto different tracks. So let's see what I can do with this. One of the first things I'm going to do is look at the group. I've grouped these together so I can turn them up and down in one group. I'm not having to do it on two channels. And I can also put plugins on them. So I'm going to put on the EQ that I had and have a look at it. So this is the EQ. I was just dipping out some frequencies that were annoying me, clearly. Let's review those. So this is with the EQ on, this is with it off. And that's with it on. So what that does is it cleans up. It's a fixing EQ. It's taking out things that sound horrible, but it's not giving it character as such. I did whack a compressor over it. But that's not really. I mean that particular compressor. I'm not sure I even had it on then. 1 second. I mean, it brings out something, but it's not what I'm looking for. It's a model of an optical compressor, I believe, and it's very smooth sounding, and I want something a little bit grittier. So what I'm going to try is the CLA guitar plugin, CLA Effects Stereo, which is part of my new Mercury bundle. And this is the updated version from my old one. And I'm going to turn everything off for the moment. Ah, that's the effects. What am I doing? CLA guitar. Sorry, put the wrong one on there. Guitar, CLA guitars stereo. That's what I was looking for. Right, so I'm going to turn everything off again. This is a beautiful plugin. So just use the compressor in this. And then we'll get them to... I don't really want any delay on it, that's just going to make it messy. That kind of adds a bit of chorus to it. I don't want that, I'm just going to use the compressor. Something there in the top end that's annoying me. Around there. Some of that bass down a touch on the little bit more mid presence on those guitars, I think. They're just starting to sound a little bit shrill at the top end and not enough mid presence. I think after the CLA, after the compressor, I'm just going to get something. Let's have a look at one of these SSL EQs. Just something that's a bit more basic than a notch filtering all the time. Nice. And then a bit of low pass. Listen to the difference with this SSL EQ. So that's with it on. With it off, just a touch of, that's what I'm adding in, which on too much of it sounds a bit horrible, but just a tiny bit of it. Let's boost something here. See, now, because of this EQ here, I've cut out specific ringy places in the top end here. I can, with a wider curve, I can just boost the kind of same area that I'm cutting here, but it will boost it in a nice kind of more round way. But if I hadn't cut these frequencies, it would just be sounding scratchy if I was boosting all that high mid. And now, because of that EQ, the guitars are coming out a lot louder, so I can actually bring them back in the mix and make more space in the mix without it being lost. I mean, that was at 0 dB before, and I know I'm boosting it a bit on here. I need to pull that output level down there. Turn the snare up a bit, or actually turn the reverb on the snare a little bit. Ah, the reverb wasn't on, that was why. Okay, I'm going to ignore some of the other guitars for a bit. Guitar 3, 4 and 5, I'm just going to mute for a bit. I'm going to turn to the acoustics now. Acoustics are, when I had my studio years and years ago, acoustic guitars were the bane of my life, and I could never get the sound that I wanted, and I used to do all sorts of cheating to get a good acoustic sound. One of my favourite things to do was I had an EQ that was like a match EQ. I can't remember which one was around at the time, but it was an EQ that matched one EQ to another. So you play it, your material, and you play it a reference source, and you compare them, and it would tell you the difference between the EQ. And I used to really like the sound of the acoustic at the beginning of the Radiohead song Just. So I used to kind of either get in there and do it myself, or get the customer to play some chords like that and then try and match the EQ, and it would give me a nice curve that I could then compress and make it sound good. But it was a total cheat, and I really struggled with acoustics. That and the fact that I was based in a railway arch, so if a train went over, I'd have to stop the take and start again. But we'll leave that aside for now. But yeah, I mean, really, the secret is parallel compression every time, and that's what no one told me when I was in my early 20s. But now I know that, and now it's easy to do in software. It's a total joy. So let's have a look at these first acoustics. So I'm just going to loop this bit round so we can listen to it over and over again. So these are two signals that at the moment, all I've got is, if I bring in that imaging plug-in, that just makes them mono, because again, it's a stereo wave file with them panned left and right. And I've panned them wider than the electric guitars, 83 and 83, but not completely left and right. I used to be a lot more panning dead left and right of stuff, and nowadays, I don't know, it's just, I want some stuff in the centre as well, so I like to sort of fan out different instruments at different places. I know it sounds basic, but it always sounds so nice. You're listening to headphones, you pan everything left and right, and it's all really wide, and as I've got older, I've gone off that. So let's have a listen. Over this, I've got nothing at the moment, so I had an EQ taking out some horrible bits and then having like a nice mid boost there. So I've got that one there is cutting something horrible. Yeah, there's a bit of nasty ringy stuff going on there. But I've got this thing where I boost one frequency with a really wide Q, and then I can tip left and right, and you can see the curve change. So if I turn it up extreme, you'll hear what I mean. So that's a real toppy acoustic. And then maybe not do as much as that. So again, take out problem frequencies and then you can boost. But boosting with problem frequencies in, I absolutely hate, because then it just turns up all the nastiness. The other one that I took out here was a ring here. Listen to that ring. It's a whistle. Just isolate. So these guitars here are grouped to this group here with that EQ, and I'm also using my favourite SSL bus compressor just to get a little bit of compression over it. Again, high attack time, I don't want it doing too much. I mean, this is really subtle. It sounds beautiful. So I've got this here. If I turn this down now, that acoustic group, I've got this going here to the acoustic crunch group as well. Same as I did with the drums, that's going to the acoustic crunch group. But in this, I've got another EQ rolling off the very, very bottom end, because I don't want that to crunch. And then I put a CLA 2A over it, and just, it won't overdrive it, but it will really compress it. I've just whacked this up. So way too compressed. I mean, that needle's just buried in it. But there's a lot of everything just sustaining for ages. I mean, the sustain that comes out of that that sort of what I call the crunch channel, even though it's not crunching that much. So if if I bring in the clean ones here, and then I turn down the crunch, we can bring up the crunch underneath it and just see how present it can be in the mix. So that's with it in the mix, it's without it. So now it just sits there. So if we were to listen to, I'm going to mute all the mute the Hammond, hang on, mute the piano, mute all the vocals for a second, so we can hear how this sounds in context with the music. So I'm going to play that again. And then I'm going to link those channels. So I want to link them together just with the volume. So as I turn, if I was to turn, for example, this one down, it would also turn this one down. So now they're locked together. So then he's got some 12-string acoustics that come in here, which I have treated pretty much identically. Just going to get a bit of a loop going on those as well. I've got these two 12-string acoustics here. If I turn that stereo imaging plugin back on, that will center them. And then I've got these panned dead left and right because they're playing at the same time as the electric guitar. And they're going to this acoustic track here, in which I've got an EQ, very similar, and an SSL bus compressor going over the 12-string group. And this is being sent... sorry, wrong channel. This is being sent here to the crunch version of the 12-string, in which I've got the same setup here, the CLA 2A, and the high pass before the compressor. So now these 12 strings should sound pretty similar to the 6 strings, but just a little bit more panned. Panned. This mid boost thing going on here, and I originally had it at 315 Hertz, but with a really wide Q. I'm going to change my mind on that and lift it up as I did on the other acoustic. So this is up really high. Yeah, get it around the middle somewhere. And that's with the crunch, just a little bit more in. And I'm going to link those channels together. The 12-string and the 12-string there. Are they already linked? Oh, they're the, sorry, they're the actual tracks. I want to link the groups together. So that's now linked, so they go up and down together. Play with the EQ of that a little bit while I'm listening to it in the mix. Right, I'm going to leave that for a bit. I might come back and do some fiddling with that in a bit. So we've got Hammond here. Let's have a look at the Hammond. Alright, it's not a real Hammond. It was some kind of software. So that's quite fierce. And I can instantly hear a load of top end in that that's just painful. Really, really... on its own, it's okay, but you put that in with a load of other frequencies like that, and that's just going to start making your ears ring. And we don't want to hurt people's ears, because that will stop their enjoyment of the music. So here's one I prepared earlier. I took some bottom end off it. I pulled out some stuff around 126 hertz, and I pulled out something up here around 2.93k-ish. I'll boost it so you can hear what I was pulling out up there. Oh, that's better. 2.7, that's horrible. For some reason I'm imagining Chris. If any of you have ever watched Monty Python, there's a sketch called Blackmail, where Terry Jones is playing the Hammond organ, and he's sitting there naked but with a tie on, and Michael Palin's presenting the blackmail thing, and I'm listening to this and I'm imagining Chris sitting there naked for some reason, playing it like Terry Jones in the Monty Python sketch. I don't know why I just said that, but it's out there now, so I can't take it back. I want to try and do this mid-boost thing, but I still think there's some horrible frequencies at the top end that... It's all around there, that kind of 1.5, 1.6. Just painful. And something maybe lower down. Oh, I should turn it. What a surprise, 500 hertz. Everyone's least favourite frequency. And now I'm going to do that, now we're taking out some horrible frequencies, I'm going to do that wide Q mid-boost thing. So let's listen and see what that sounds like. There's still something that's not making it sit in the mix. Quite a few things actually, but bottom end stuff. Yeah, sort of 200 area. But when I pull that out, it's harsh at the top end. Right, I'm going to add a bit of room to it with my favourite room machine. make it sound like it's in a real room. Right, and we've got this other guitar going on in the intro, which is just a single guitar. And this is the only place that it happens. I like it. So we're going to do something because I don't want it to clash with these guitars. And it sounds like it's just the same sound, but a slightly different part. So I'm going to start by putting some kind of nice old warm EQ model. I might go for that SSL. Again, the SSL EQ stereo. It's a stereo track after all, even though it's a mono guitar. Widen the Q a bit. Give it some trash. So what I'm doing there is I'm sort of boosting around 800 hertz, but then I'm cutting a bit higher up, about 3K, just to give it a middly sound but without it hurting. I mean, it might be way too much at the moment. And I'll add some real air in it. Maybe cut some 200. And then if I put I want quite a driving compressor. I think I'm going to go for a 76. Which sounds lovely on vocals because it can drive them beautifully, but I think it's going to drive this guitar. I'm going to click all, which basically puts all of the ratios in. Really tight release so that it just jumps back to full level straight away. Bit of attack. Not too much. So it's kind of made it sound a bit thinner and more nasally, but I think with the other guitars, it's going to fill out that middle area. And it fits really nicely with that, I think. Let's have a listen with the music, with all the other stuff. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use that stereo imager plugin to make it mono, because I might want to drop one of these tracks here onto this track to have it treated differently later on. Let's have a... Right, so now I can feel that all the music's getting too loud and I'm losing the definition on the drums. And this always happens. You start turning things up, putting new things in, and then you lose the definition of what you've done earlier. So I want to turn the bass sub up a bit and maybe the bass up a bit, but then turn the whole music just down a touch. Oh yeah, now we get the punch through. And now I can bring this guitar up compared to the other two. Lovely. Right, I'm quite happy with that. That sounds really tight. What's hanging over there? I was trying to cut them pretty much dead. Yeah, so... maybe I want to cut them a touch deader. Touch more dead. It's like, how much dead could they be? And it's like, none more dead. So that's the last hit there. There's a bit in the Blur song, Charmless Man, and you hear they do this kind of, I think it's in Charmless Man, they do this kind of stop, and it really, you just hear the echo for a split second and then it cuts dead and then the next thing comes in, and I'm trying to get the same thing with this. I want it to really just go totally dead. I don't need these bits of wave. There's nothing on them at all, so I can cut them out. Keep your session clean. I need, obviously that's far too much. Need them to actually end. Right, so what is actually there? So it'll be this reverb here that's hanging over. So I want to turn the volume down on this. I'll read it and turn it back up for there. But I want the volume to go pretty drastically on that reverb. Oh yeah. I'm getting close to where I want to be now. So what's still ringing over a little bit there? Bring these in a touch. Hammond. Just a little bit too much now. I know what I want it to sound like, but it's not. It's that one there. I don't even want to fade it. Yeah, that's more natural. I don't know what the limitations that Chris will allow me to do, but I'm sure he'll let me try it. I'm going to try and remove that first bass note so there's more of a gap. No, it needs it in. Might try and fade it so it's softer. No, that sounds awful. Yeah. Maybe if the gap was longer, it would have more of the impact that I'm looking for. But it's just nice to have a clean moment there. I'm going to move them up there so that we're not getting any spill there. Okay, when this comes in, I've got another guitar here, guitar 5. Let's have a listen to that. Right, so this is the only guitar that's playing at the same time as the 12-string acoustics. Oh, sorry, the 6-string acoustics. And it sounds like he's put it through some kind of Leslie, or at least that's the that's what it's meant to sound like, and it does sound like it's a nice nice little Leslie bit, but it's in mono. So I'm assuming whatever plugin he did it with, he put a stereo Leslie plugin on a mono track, and it's bounced to mono. Now I could go back to the original and. Yeah, Chris said, not sure about that bass note. No, I agree with you. I got rid of it. I think you noticed that. There's a delay, Chris. But yeah, so this is a mono guitar signal in a stereo file. You can see that there. I mean, there's no left and right at all. Which I'd probably try and do something to make it stereo. But because the acoustics are quite stereo, I might leave off doing too much of that. Oh, hi Neil. Haven't spoken to you in ages, man. Not since last summer. Unfortunate circumstances, but still it was nice to see you and your mum. Thanks for watching along. Yeah, because the acoustics are so stereo, I don't mind that being mono, but I want to make it sound more like the top end of a Leslie, the horn of a Leslie, than the bottom end of it. In fact, I know what I'm going to do. Here we go. I'm getting silly now. I'm going to duplicate that track. GTR 5 top, not percent, 5. And this is going to be GTR bot. So I'm going to simulate the top and the bottom of a Leslie cab. So I'm going to start with the bottom. I'm going to get just a Q1. And all I'm going to do is do that. So I'm just letting through the bottom end. Actually, that should be a Q2. Same as on the bass. I'll set that for high and low pass. So make sure they're the same. A little bit boosted. So that's just the bottom end there, and then I'm going to whack a bit of I love that 2A. Too much. Again, just trying to tickle the 3 dB mark. So we got some real nice warmth, and I can adjust what bands I want to get. And then this top end one, I'll whack on another. I'm going to whack on a Q2, just in case I want to roll in the top end, but I probably won't. I'll gets really sparkly, sounding like a real nice Leslie. Yeah, I might add some air into this, like up here somewhere. Put them together. Right, so that top end one now, I'm going to do some nice stereo-y things to it. I'm going to see... I'm going to use the TR5 Leslie on it. Okay, that's taking ages to load. There we go. That took a long time to load there. So this is just going to be kind of giving me a horn of a Leslie. I want to get rid of the bottom end. Get rid of the drum. I'm going to re-Leslie it. Mic distance right up. A little bit of the drum in it. So that's now giving us that Leslie and making it sound stereo just on the top end. But the bottom end is still mono. With the acoustics. And then I'm going to put a compressor. Okay, and I've got some horrible filter frequencies to filter out of that. I'm going to do that afterwards. In fact, I'm going to move the compressor down a bit and EQ it after the Leslie with a Q10. But that's sounding really nice to my ears. I know when we get it in the right place. What if I just went? Yeah, it's not going to peak. Such a thin signal, and then I'm... Yeah, that's not hurting anymore. Cheers, Chris. Still a ringing frequency in there that I can... There it is. I had the frequency and then I went off it because I'm not used to this control. I meant to go for the gain and I hit the frequency. Now I've done that, I need to adjust the compressor. Up the attack. No, there's still something there that's really bugging me. There's a frequency I've not caught yet. Well, there's something there, but that wasn't what I was looking for. I just want to get rid of the harshness. Oh, about 4K. I hate this because now all my frequencies are out of order. I've got 700 hertz here and 4 point something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But a lot higher. Yeah. I know it's a lot, but that sounds lovely. A little bit more body. That thing's feeding back like no end. Maybe that's... I'm already pulling it out with that one. Oh well. We'll come back to that. What happens if I just turn it off? Yeah, it does sound better with it on. Sorry if this is boring, everyone, but this is how it's done. You just sit here for ages and see, one thing I can't do in this, I should explain, one thing that I can't do that I would usually be doing is referencing other material, because this is being live streamed and then I want to whack it up on my YouTube channel. I can't really violate copyright by playing other people's music. Now, I could, in theory, play some of my own music as a cross-reference, but I don't think that's a fair test, really. I like to listen to, mainstream stuff and things that I've been listening to for years as a comparison, and I can't do that while while I'm doing a stream. So sometimes all the treble just creeps or all the bass just creeps, and I'm very sort of cognizant of that, but usually, fresh ears the next day fixes a lot of that, and we're not going too far off. But it's like the other day when I was doing some work on the vocals, I was referencing a song, we'll come to that later, and I'd love to be able to do that on this, but you're going to have to reference it yourself. So while I'm fiddling with this and it's boring, go away and listen to Life's Been Good by Joe Walsh, because vocal-wise I've been trying to get something that sounds a bit like that. I'm going to check the phasing on those, because sometimes things can go out of phase with each other when you mess around with them too much. And sometimes they sound better out of phase. So here's the mixer. And there's my phase button. So if I find the Guitar 5 button. So that's out of phase. And that's in phase. I prefer the sound of it out of phase. I think it's actually cancelling out some frequencies I don't like. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Right, so what I've got coming up here in the next bit here is a piano, which I put in just because I thought it needed something here. And that's actually the Mercury sample set, which I bought a while back, which is samples of Freddie Mercury's grand piano. It's actually the Mercury Lite, because which has less samples, less dynamics to it. But for the part, it's hardly a difficult and a part that needs a lot of dynamics. So I just whacked in the CPU Lite version. And I've got a room machine on it. Although that sounds totally out of time, it actually goes with the drums pretty well because of the tempo changes in the drums. So if I just play the drums and the piano together, I've got a CLA 2A over the piano as well. So again, Charmless Man, I'm thinking Charmless Man, Trouble in the Message Centre, a lot of that kind of 90s Blur stuff, which I know Chris absolutely loves and I absolutely love as well. We're both huge fans of all that stuff. We're both, well, I'm 40 and he's like 48 or something. So, you know, we're both children of the 90s. Sorry, 42, whatever. You 42? You look old anyway. So yeah, we both enjoy that kind of thing. I'll try and put it up in the mix a bit and see where we can fit it without it getting too crowded. And the next one, I copied and pasted it, but I also added it to an octave up version of itself, so you now get 2 octaves of the same thing happening. which actually allows me to bring it down in the mix, because the first time round you can kind of not hear it as loud, which I don't mind. Just subtle bit of driving, and then in the second bridge it really kicks. Backing vocals. I'll mute the backing vocals for now. Yeah, I'm bringing the music down a touch because it's starting to cloud the drums now. So there's one more guitar, I think, which I haven't put in yet, which is I'm going to leave that till last. It's the guitar that it's got his little Manic Street Preachers moment there. I'm going to put that in after the vocals, because I don't want it to conflict with the vocals, and I want to find a space where it can sit with the vocals and still be loud, but I want to do the vocals first. So hopefully some of you dipped out while I was messing around with Guitar Leslie's and went and listened to Life's Been Good and come back, and I think that was 2 of you, because I had 8 viewers live and it went down to 6 and then it went back up to 8 again. So that's how many people are watching this live. It started out as quite a lot more, but as we go on and get technical, people tend to drop off the stream. I don't even notice I'm not watching the screen. But I told people to go and listen to Life's Been Good. And yeah, because I wanted to get the same kind of vocal sound in the verses. And if you listen to Life's Been Good, it's got very narrow vocal sound and it's very in the background. It's not mixed up high. There's no bottom end on the vocals at all. There's quite a lot of kind of slapback reverb on it. But it sounds great. It's really present in the mix. You can hear it perfectly clearly. And it sounds like it's doubled with one of the vocals just under the other. So just because these were panned a little bit in the stereo files, I've got that plugin making the mono, but I've got nothing going on there at all processing-wise. They're both being sent to a group with the verse. And on this, in fact, let me turn all the plugins off and you can hear. If I go to all Vox as well, this should be going to all Vox, which it is. Oh yes, that's muted, that's why. So
I can't escape your frowning face.
So that's just the same vocal, well, not the same vocal, a doubled vocal, and I've got one slightly under the other.
It defines the world that all of us will live in.
So it's got that nice sort of, it's loose, but not so loose that it's a problem. It's got the feeling of an old kind of vocal. So I'm not going to do anything on the all Vox group at the moment. I'm just going to go to the verse group. So I really rolled up the high pass here and up to sort of 200 hertz, and then boosted some air around 8K, took it up a bit of 2K, and also dipped around 250, you can see there, and also sort of 450-ish. To try and make the vocal sound thin but still present. Let me turn off some of this other stuff going on first.
I can't escape your frowning face.
So that's without EQ.
Within you there's
This
a
is,
childhood place.
and I put it in, and suddenly all that that happens at the bottom should have disappeared quite nicely.
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you there's a childhood place.
I could roll it right up.
It defines the world that all of us will live
I'm going to roll it up a little bit more to around 230, but I think that's thin enough. I was comparing it with Life's Been Good, which was my template, so I don't want to mess with it too much. Right, and then I've got CLA 2A on here. Let's see what is happening here.
I can't escape your frowning face.
A little bit of compression, not too much.
Within you there's a childhood play.
It's not on at the moment. You can see on that note it goes crazy. But in general, it's about 3 dB of compression. So if I turn that on, you'll hear it work.
I can't escape your frowning face.
That's giving it some real
Within
presence.
you there's a childhood play.
Compressor number 2. My SSL bus compressor, my favourite. I'd have this on every channel. Really would.
I can't escape your...
Lower attack time on this one. Auto release, quite a high ratio. Just kind of trying to compress what the other one is getting, but even harsher. So it's kind of got a subtle compressor and then a harsher compressor.
I can't escape your frowning face.
And then the delay, which I switched to BPM because the time was changing up and down. You can see that if I change it to host,
I can't escape your frowning face.
you can see the BPM changes, and then the pitch of the delay changes with the BPM. It goes up and down. So I just kind of went for 80 as an average, and just left it at that because it's such a slapback. You're not going to notice a couple of milliseconds.
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you there's a childhood place.
I'm going to roll up that bottom end even more.
It defines the world that all of us will live in.
So that's the kind of verse vocal sound I'm looking for. And then I whacked over, as I always seem to do, the room machine. Just if I turn off the delay, you'll hear the room machine a bit more.
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you there's a childhood place. It defines the world.
So that was my first attempt at trying to make him sound a bit like Life's Been Good.
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you there's a childhood place. It defines the world. And all
Jenna says, can you make me sound like Kylie? Probably. Someone made Kylie sound like Kylie, so I'm sure, someone could make you sound like Kylie. Whether I'm the person to do that or not, I don't know. Right, let's have a look at this. So,
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you.
so then I had, on this Allvox, which actually the chorus and the bridge go to, I had a few things that were just notching out some stuff. And again, because vocals, when they all get together, they can sort of accumulate at certain frequencies. I just had some stuff pulled out, which I'm going to turn on now. I had a little bit of reverb over all of them, a very small, just a 7% mix, plate. I love plates, very short tone, loads of pre-delay. And then I've got an L2 limiter over the whole vocal group, just to kind of make sure that the vocal is just here and never moves beyond that.
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you there's a childhood place. It defines the world that all of us will live in. A fragile terror you maintain.
And now I'm listening in context, and you put those other limiters on, and you put the reverb in, and the other bits and pieces, and I've got this bottom end rolling off here. It's actually, I'm rolling off too much bottom end here now, so that's probably why I had it dialed back before. But I want to keep that high pass over the Allvox group, so I'm going to just roll that back a touch.
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you there's a childhood place.
let's go to the next bit. So we've got here bridge vocal. So I got given 2 parts here, which was a bridge vocal and bridge double. And the bridge double was not a double. Chris mislabeled that. Slap on the wrist for you.
I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me.
So this is what I had going on this. I had an EQ nowhere near as harsh, and I had a bit of bottom end being boosted there, which I'm actually going to pull down. But then the same sort of 2 compressors, which I'm dragging over to this screen, and a bit of H delay. So this is what I've got going on this, what he calls the bridge vocal.
What you say. I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the myth making, there's someone else you'd rather be.
So they're panned a little bit at the moment because I haven't got the other ones on. What I did is I made a copy of each of these tracks, and I put some tuning software over it, the Waves Tune. Not because the original tracks were out of tune, but just to fatten it up so it sounded like 2 different singers. And I've also shifted the track by each of those doubles by 10 milliseconds. That one was 6 milliseconds. I'll make that 10. Keep it consistent. So now
I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the myth making. I don't.
So that's sounding a bit too synthetic to my ears. I did that quickly just to have a listen and see how it would work in the mix. But I actually think the original vocals I'm going to keep up quite high. I'm going to centre them all. I'm not going to have any panning on the bridge vocals because he didn't give me a proper double. It's going to be hard to pan them. So I'm just going to bring these artificial doubles down a bit and keep the main ones in the mix.
I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the myth making, there's someone else you'd rather be.
I'm getting a load of this at the bottom end on that through my speakers, but it's just not going to be heard in the mix. It's just wasted energy, and it's fighting the compressors for no reason at all, for no audible reason.
I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the myth making, there's someone else you'd rather be. I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the myth making, there's someone else you'd rather be.
Okay, so they're sounding quite angry. I'm going to shift these to 20 millisecond delay, these doubles.
I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the myth making, there's someone else you'd rather be.
So that's the, I don't know why these have gone white. That's a software bug there. Yeah, so I've just kind of upped the limiter on that. I'm going to turn the verse vocals down. So all the vocals are going to come up and the verse vocals are going to come down a little bit.
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you there's a childhood place. It defines the world.
Sorry, I'm being a dickhead. I meant to turn it up here in the group. Still think a little bit less bottom end on that.
And all of us will live. I can't escape your frowning face.
love that vocal sound. I love it. Drive that compressor a bit more so it makes those vocals sound a bit skankier.
I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself but not to me. Just like the big fakehead, there's someone else you'd rather be.
So here's his R's. We've got 4 channels of R's. And bring these in now, they're nice. And I've got a group here where I had some plugins on it, surprisingly. That was my EQ for it. Which if I put on, you can now hear. Right, that's a little bit harsh sounding its own, but I think, I mean, it's that one there that's really. I don't know whether I went a bit too extreme, but we'll see. Compressor. Hardly touching it. SSL. Right, and now I've got this thing here, the 004 stereo. And it's got basically 4 other copies of it at different gains and different pans. So hopefully this should make it sound really thick, like there's a load more people. Which it certainly does. Now that might sound over the top in the track at the moment, but
Just like the big fakehead, there's someone else you'd rather be.
I'm losing that bottom vocal now.
I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself but not to me. Just like the big fakehead. I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself but not to me.
Sounds better.
Just like the big fakehead, there's someone else you'd rather be.
Oh.
Buried in your past must be.
Sorry to go back to the drums in a kind of random way, but I want to try that that Trans X plugin on the snare at the end of that horrible effects chain that I did to try and make the snare sound good. I know it's a kick one. moment to my ears. I mean, it is adding something, but it's not better or worse. It's probably just adding more and more plugins. I'm going to go back at some point and look at that snare, because I'm really struggling to get what I want out of it. In some places it's great, and then in other places it's not. But I've kind of cheated by just making loads of ooh and putting loads of reverb on it to try and make it sound consistent. But I still want to get the crack out of it. Or more crack into it, should I say. More crack, please. Okay, let's have a look at the chorus vocals.
Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes?
So these are doubled.
The reaction has gone. Leave behind all your lies.
Right, I think this is suffering with I copied the plugin from the verse over to the chorus syndrome. So I need to EQ this more carefully for the chorus.
Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes? The reaction has gone.
Well, that's horrible.
Leave behind all your lies. Leave behind your lies.
Oh, that's nice. That's much nicer. Now he's kind of driving the mic more. I was getting a horrible 4K through on that. Okay, so same as all the other vocals. Got the CLA2A.
Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes? The
I've got the
reaction
SSL.
has gone. Leave behind.
I want to double the time of that. I don't want it to be it's gone up to 87 BPM at that point.
Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes? The reaction has gone. Leave behind.
So at the moment there, I was just listening to the repeats and I was pulling off the bottom end off the repeats, so the repeats aren't clouding the sound. A little bit of top end off is
Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes? The react. Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes? The reaction has gone. Leave behind all your lies. Leave behind your lies. Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes?
Let me turn my latency up a little bit. Remember, usually it would be fine, but yeah. But because I'm also live streaming and got webcams running, IP webcams and all sorts of stuff going on, it slows my computer down a little bit more than I like. Where were we? We're here.
Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes? The reaction has gone. Leave behind all your lies. Leave behind
Well, I'm going to whack in this last guitar of his now, see what this sounds like. So this is quite a big sound. So I've tried to do a kind of a mid boost on it, take out some horrible frequencies, like that one that was really whistling.
What you say, lie to yourself, but there's someone else you'd rather be. Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eye? The reaction has gone. Leave behind all your
Okay, well everything is in the mix now. So why don't I mute my mic and we have a full listen through from start to finish and see where we're at. And maybe you can send me some comments while it's playing. So I'm muting my mic now, here we go. Okay. That, I was fiddling with some stuff there. So what was I doing? I was pulling the music up and down a little bit. I turned the crunch drums up a bit, but then I was getting too much crap from the room and the overheads, so I turned the send of the room and the overheads that goes to the crunch drums down slightly, and I also put an EQ over just a Q1, just a single band, just taking out this low end here off the room and the overheads, and it instantly cleaned it up. It sounded great here. It sounded a lot nicer. The lower harmony in the second part of the bridge needs to come up, and the BVs in the outro too. Okay, where's the bridge on that one? Let's have a look here, see what you're talking about.
I know about what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the big faking, there's someone else you'd rather be.
Yes. I was trying to do that earlier, and I think I was turning down the wrong one, so my fault.
I know about what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the big faking.
So the backing vocals at the end we can automate because I think they sound great here. Don't want to bring them up there. Just want to bring them up here very slightly. So if I turn on read on this, we'll just bring that up very, very slightly. Oh, you sang them on the wrong channels, that's why. Okay. Well, I should have done it by ear. I was soloing something and turning something else up and down, so I think it was me being a bloody idiot. Right, let's have a look. I'm going to do something here, which I like to do, which was already set up, I think, when we did Forgotten How to Smile. But it's another good reason to quantize the track, or not quantize the track, sorry, make a tempo map that's in time. So I'm going to turn the whole song just up and down at certain points. So I want it to kick in and have it at 0. So this is the stereo out. This is the final output of the whole thing. So I've got some plugins over the whole mix here. I've got an HEQ, which is a brilliant EQ because it allows you to listen to just the mono, and then just the stereo. So what I'm doing there is basically rolling off the bottom end on the stereo image and leaving it in on the mono image. So that's just beautiful, that plugin. And then I've got a few notches that I've taken out there in a general kind of mid sweep. I'm going to leave that because I've been mixing with those on. I turned off the master group compressor because I didn't want that clouding the mix, and I'd also turned off the stereo imaging. Sometimes I like to push up the stereo imaging, but yeah, I turned that off. I've got the CLA mix down, which he says to mix with it on, and I've not used this before, but I was using it the other day when I set this up, and it was really nice. Listen to the difference when I turn it on and off. So that's off. Put it on. Oh. Next time I see you, Chris, I'm going to thank you for that plugin because I think that's an amazing plugin. And then I've got an L2 at the end, which is just limiting it for everyone listening here, so it doesn't. But it's not really even touching anything. If I see over this intro, it's doing nothing at all really. So I could really turn this up. I want to get about 3 dB of gain reduction out of the whole thing when it's at its loudest point. So if I go to the chorus at the end. Okay, so I'm getting a 2 and a bit, but I don't want to crunch it too much. So that's made the whole song a bit louder. Now what I'm going to do is before this L2 insert, so before the final limiter, I'm going to add just a standard EQ, just a straight EQ out of Cubase, nothing special at all. Let me find, where's their standard EQ? I haven't used it for so long. I'm just going to use a 10-band graphic, and that will do. So if I click on write on there, and then I just turn it up and down like that, that will write some automation to the track. You can see there I've got a load of automation written. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't need any of it. But we're going to use this to just automate the level before the L2, before the final L2. So I'm going to leave it at 0 for this intro. And then when we get to the verse, and then at this point, bang, that's going to come down in level there. There we go. I'm going to bring it down by 2 dB. So the whole song has just been brought down before the limiter by 2 dB. So there'll be no limiting going on at the moment. And then when we get to the bridge, which is coming up here, this is the bar that the bridge starts on, I'm going to bring it up to -1 dB. So we're adding a dB when it gets to the bridge very, very quickly. So the whole song jumps up by a dB then. Let's get exactly at the right point. Yeah, so that's on the bass drum there. Oh, it's coming up in frames. I don't want to do that. I want to be monitoring in bars. Oh, I'll come back to that later. I know that when I was using my iPad as the remote, I changed it to time rather than bars and beats. But it's still snapping to the bars. So. I know by what you say, lie to yourself. And we're going into another verse here. There's someone else you'd rather be. So we're going to, on that bass drum there, we'll bring this back down to -2. What else you'd rather be? I know by what you... Again, back to the bridge. So where's that bass drum there? There, that's where that starts. So I'm going to turn it back up to -0.9. Seems to be where it wants to snap to. I'm not going to argue with half a, well, 1/10 of a dB. I know people who would. Hi, Chris. I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. the bottom end out of that piano, add a bit of mid in and turn it down. It's just annoying me. Keep turn stereo. Let's get that there. Turn up the whole thing there like that. Clean that up, no end. That's beautiful.
You're willing to even try. I don't buy what you say. Lie to yourself, but not to me. Just like the big fake.
No, I'm not. This is Chris Barnes's stuff. I'm doing a song for him, mixing a song for him. Chris Cook just asked, working on a new album. No, this isn't my album. I'm just doing some stuff for other people. Right, so that is the point now. We've got a chorus coming in there, so now we can bring it back up to the level that I had in the intro, which I'm going to leave at minus 0.1, not exactly, no, I'll go to 0 dB because I did in the intro.
There's someone else you'd rather be.
So now we kind of mapped out the song. We've got a loud intro, it comes down for the verse, up for the bridge, down for the verse, up for the bridge, and then a back up for the ending. And that's just before the final limiter. So anything I want to put on the output 1 and 2 on the stereo out before can be processed and it can compress, but it's not going to affect that. It's only the final limiter that's going to kind of re-squash it back a bit. So let's have a listen to those transitions. Okay, let's have a look at what I can put over the main left and right. I love this plugin. Not too much compression or... For once, I'm actually going to turn the music up a bit. I'll bring that back a bit because I don't want it to do too much gain reduction in the bridge. I want that to happen in the chorus. trim them a little bit so they're not as crazy. Shouldn't get any noise at the end. And then trim them a touch. What are these all sitting here processing, doing nothing? They're all the bridge vocals. They finished long ago, so get rid of them and the verse vocals as well. Right, that's a tidier session. Make sure nothing's ringing on those. That guitar will fade nicely. And the intro as well. So now we go at the beginning of the song where there was a lot of noise before he started playing. All that. Some people like to leave that in, depending on the song. I definitely don't on this. Just got your message, Chris. I will have a look. Why isn't this fading? What's going on? Trying to fade. Oh, I see. It's bloody tempo map is making it look weird. Okay, let's go. There was a crossfade in a guitar, isn't there? One of the guitars. Just the bass note cutting out before the outro sounds iffy. Right, I think that's here. Where I've got a crossfade. Is that the bit you mean, Chris? Because that's not cutting out as such. But it does go down, so I'm going to move the crossfade point to there. Yeah, now it dips there. Maybe bring down the amount of crossfade, so just bring that in like that. Being pushed, the L2 is being pushed way too much now, probably because I've got that Maserati plug-in over it. So let's listen to this loud bit.
Behind all
Right, so if I wasn't live streaming this, I'd probably go and take a break now for about half hour, 40 minutes, rest my ears, maybe play some different music afterwards just to kind of cleanse my ears, and then listen back and make loads of changes and go, oh my God, there's far too much treble. But for the sake of this one, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to mute my mic, we're going to have a listen through, I'm going to try wherever possible not to touch anything and fiddle. And I'm going to call it a night. And if I do anything significant to it tomorrow, I'll do another live stream tweaking it up. But if it's only a couple of minor tweaks, then we'll call it a night. So let's have a listen through to this now. I'm going to mute my mic. Here goes.
I can't escape your frowning face. Within you there's a childhood place. It defines the world that all of us will live in. A fragile terror you maintain draws people in to feel the same. I was one of those, knowing you must face your fears. I know by what you say, lie to yourself but not to me. Just like the big fake, there's someone else you'd rather be. Buried in your past must be something painful no one sees. Desperate to change, you're unwilling to even try. I know by what you say, lie to yourself but not to me. Just like a big fake, there's someone else you'd rather be. Something's wrong. Where's that look in your eyes? The reaction has gone. Leave behind all your
Okay, so I only fiddled twice. I turned the verse vocals down a touch, and I tried to turn on that Trans-X plugin on the snare, put it in and out just to see what it was doing, and it didn't do very much that I liked, so I left it off. But to be honest, because of ear fatigue, I'm going to leave it there for now. I can't add anything more tonight. I might open it up tomorrow and be horrified by it. As I said earlier, I can't reference it with anything else, so because of copyright reasons, I don't want to be playing other people's music on this. So, yeah, I think the best thing is have a break from it and maybe come back to it tomorrow. But I hope everyone enjoyed this session, those that stayed with us for the whole thing. I promise to do them earlier next time because it seems that people drop off when it's too late. I mean, we're almost at 3 hours on this stream, and and it's almost 1 in the morning. So luckily there's no neighbours, so that's very good. So thank you for watching along. Thanks to Chris for letting me fiddle about with his song live on Facebook and then on YouTube after. And yeah, if you want me to mix anything, I mean, this is vastly different to what I was doing before. I was doing some stuff on Lorelei's album, and that was a totally different style. This, you know, I like to work with all different styles of music. So, I mean, if you want to send me some multi-track, I will quite happily mix some stuff for you on a live stream. I've got some terms and conditions and stuff that I said at the start of the video where we did the mixing for Forgotten How to Smile, but I'm going to put it all on my website. I will do, talking of websites, I will do one thing here. I will find the guitar, because Chris played the guitar parts on one of my guitars while we were on tour, and it was my 87 SG, which is absolutely lovely. So I'm just showing you that now. Nice little photo here of my 87 SG. That's got an Ibanez pickup in the neck, a 70s Ibanez pickup in the neck. And it's got a Seth Lover. Is it Seth Lover? I can't remember his name, but yeah, Seth Lover, I think is his name. And that's from 1982, that pickup. That's one of his custom pickups from 82. And this is an 87 SG with those custom pickups in, and I picked that up very cheap somewhere. It was excellent. Good day out. Look at my last blog here, 2017. Plumber's kitchen is never plumbed, is it? Well, I design websites and I don't update my own site. But anyway, let's get rid of that. Just want to show you the guitar that Chris had been playing it on. Yeah, so until next time, goodbye. It's been an absolute pleasure.